Hi dear students, welcome to the third session of risk management. In the previous sessions, we already discussed about introduction to risk management, the nature of risk and how to manage risk. In the previous session, we discussed mainly about the model to manage a risk. Barry Boehm's model to manage a risk engineering model. What are the major steps included in the risk engineering? In this session, we are discussing about hazards, hazard identification as well as hazard analysis. The first stage in any risk assessment exercise is to identify the hazards that might affect the duration or resource cost of the project. A common problem with hazard identification is that a list of hazard is potentially endless. Therefore, a way is needed to distinguish the damaging and likely hazards. A hazard is an event that might occur and will, if it does not occur, create a problem for the successful completion of the project. In identifying and analyzing hazards, we can usefully distinguish between the cause, its immediate effect, that is the problem that it creates, and the risk that will pose to the project. For example, the illness of a team member is a hazard that might result in the problem of late delivery of a component. The late delivery of that component is likely have an effect on other activities and might, particularly if it is on the critical path, put the project completion date at risk. The hazard here is the illness of the team member. The problem is the late delivery of the component, and the project completion date is at the risk. A common way of identifying hazards is to use a checklist listing all the possible hazards and factors that influence them. Typical checklists list many, even hundreds of hazards, hundreds of factors, and there are a number of knowledge-based software products available to assist in this analysis. Some hazards may be generic hazards, while some others may be specific. A generic hazard means they are relevant to all software projects, and standard checklists can be used and augmented from an analysis of past projects to identify them. These will include risks such as misunderstanding the requirements or key personnel being ill. The specific risk means that are relevant to an individual project and these are likely to be more difficult to identify without an involvement of the members of the project team and a working environment that encourages risk assessment. The categories of factors that will need to be considered while hazard identification are included the following. The first one is application factors. The nature of the application, whether it is a simple data processing application, a safety critical system, or a large distributed system with real-time elements, is likely to be a critical factor. The expected size of the application is also important. The larger the system, the greater is the probability of errors and communication and management problems. Shortly, the application factors include the nature of the application and the expected size of the application. Second category of factor is staff factor. Staff factors. The experience and skills of the staff involved are clearly major factors. An experienced programmer is less likely to make errors than one with little experience. While considering the appropriateness of the experience in coding small data processing modules in COBOL may be of little value if we are developing a complex real-time control system using another programming language. Factors such as the level of staff satisfaction and the staff turnover rates are also important to the success of any project. Demotivated staff or key personnel leaving unexpectedly have caused many a project to fail. Concluding, staff factors mainly consist of the experience of the staff, the skills of the staff involved, as well as the staff satisfaction, staff turnover rate, demotivated staff, or key personnel leaving unexpectedly. The third factors are related to project factors. It is important that the project and its objectives are well defined and they are absolutely clear to all members of the project team and all key stakeholders. Any possibility that this is not the case will occur a risk to the success of the project. Similarly, an agreed and formal quality plan must be in place and it must be accepted by all participants. And any possibility that the quality plan is inadequate, it will jeopardize the project. The next set of factors include project methods. Using well-specified methods or structured methods for project management and system development will decrease the risk of delivering a system that is unsatisfactory or late. Using such methods for the first time may cause problems and delays. It is only with experience that the benefits occur. The next set of factors include hardware-software factors. A project that requires new hardware for development is likely to have a greater risk than one where the software can be developed on existing hardware or a familiar hardware. Where a system is developed on one type of hardware platform or software platform to be used on another, there might be high risk or there might be additional risk at installation. Next set is changeover factors. The need for an all-in-one changeover to the new system poses particular risk. Incremental changeover or gradual changeover minimizes the risk involved, but it is not always practical. Parallel running can provide a safety, but might be impossible or it must be too costly. Then supplier factors. The extent to which a project relies on external organizations that cannot be directly controlled often influences the project's success. For example, delays in the installation of telephone lines or a delivery of equipment may be difficult to avoid, particularly if the project is of little consequence to the external supplier. The next category of factors include environment factors. Changes in the environment can affect a project success. For example, a significant change in the taxation regulations could have serious consequences for the development of a payroll application. The next is health and safety factors. It is not a major issue for software projects compared to other category of projects such as civil engineering projects. The possible effects of project activities on the health and safety of the participants and the environment should be considered. Every project should include an audit of the specific risk before work starts, and that audit update should be scheduled as part of the overall project plan. Our next section is hazard analysis, analyzing or assessing the hazards. Having identified the hazards that might affect our project, we need some way of assessing their importance. Some risk will be relatively unimportant. For example, the risk that some of the documentation is delivered a day late, whereas some risk will be of major significance. For example, the risk that the software is delivered late. Some risks are quite likely to occur. It is quite likely, for example, that one of the software developers in a team will take a few days sick leave during a lengthy project. Whereas some risks are relatively unlikely, hardware failure causing a loss of completed code. Probability of a hazards occurring is known as the risk probability or risk likelihood. Risk likelihood is the probability of the hazards occurring in a project. The effect that resulting problem will have on the project, if it occurs, is known as the risk impact. The importance of the risk is known as risk value or risk exposure. The risk value is calculated as risk exposure is equal to risk likelihood into risk impact. Ideally, the risk impact is estimated in monetary terms and the likelihood assessed as a probability. In that case, the risk exposure will represent an expected cost in the same sense that we calculated expected cost and benefits while discussing cost-benefit analysis. The risk exposures of various risks can be compared with each other to assess the relative importance of each risk, and they can be directly compared with the cost and likelihoods of success of various contingency action plans. However, estimation of these costs and probabilities is likely to be difficult, subjective, time consuming, and costly. So, it is valuable to obtain some quantitative measure of risk likelihood and impact, because without these it is difficult to compare or rank risk in a meaningful way. Moreover, the effort put into obtaining a good quantitative estimate can provide a deeper understanding or a valuable understanding of the problem. Many risk managers use a simple scoring method to provide a quantitative measure for assessing each risk. Some just categorize likelihoods and impacts as high, medium, or low. But this form of ranking does not allow the calculation of a risk exposure. A most better approach is to score the likelihood and impact on a scale of, say, 1 to 10, where the hazard that is most likely to occur receives a score of 10 and the least likely to occur a score of 1. Impact measures must take into account the total risk to the project. This must include the following potential cost: the cost of delays to scheduled dates for deliverables. The cost overruns caused by using additional or more expensive resources. Cost incurred or implicit in any compromise to the system's quality or functionality. Prioritizing the risk. Managing risk involves the use of two various strategies. First strategy is to reducing the risk exposure by the reduction of either the likelihood or risk impact. Then the second strategy is the drawing up of various contingency action plans to deal with the risk should it occur. Any attempt to reduce a risk exposure or put a contingency plan in place will have a cost associated with it. It is therefore important to ensure that this effort is applied in the most effective way, and we need a way of prioritizing the risk so that the more important ones can receive the greatest attention. In practice, there are generally other factors in addition to the risk exposure value that must also be taken into account when prioritizing the risk. First factor is the confidence of the risk assessment. Confidence of the risk assessment. Some of our risk exposure assessments will be relatively poor. Where this is the case, there is a need for further investigation before action can be planned. Then second factor is the compound risk. Some risk will be dependent on others. Where this is the case, they should be treated together as a single risk. Then third factor is the number of risks. There is a limit to the number of risks that can be effectively considered and acted on by a project manager. We might therefore wish to limit the size of the prioritized list. And the last one is cost of action. Some risk can be reduced or avoided immediately with very little cost or effort, and it is sensible to take action on these regardless of their risk value. For other risks, we need to compare the cost of taking action with the benefits of reducing the risk. So far we were discussing about hazards, how hazards can be identified, and hazard analysis techniques. Some hazards can be prevented from occurring or their likelihood reduced to insignificant levels. Thank you.